How to stay relevant in a digital age. That's what we're talking about today. Hi, this is Frank Buck, and this is the place to be if you want to get organized, make it look easy. Some of the ideas I bring you each week start as questions from subscribers just like you. And today I bring you one example. Lucas writes as follows. I work in an area with a lot of people your age or older. And tech wise, it can get rather frustrating. It's therefore very refreshing to find myself, as a fairly tech savvy millennial, being faced with you as my first result when looking into the question of transcribing cursive in the age of AI. Thank you very much. Well, I want to share with you today my response to Lucas. Lucas, thanks so much for the kind words. The analogy that I like to use is that change from a pencil and paper world from generations past to our present digital age is a lot like standing on the dock and placing one foot in the boat. Everything's fine. Then the boat moves just a little, but you're still okay. The boat moves just a little further from the dock, and now we begin to sweat. At some point, pretty quickly, we've got to decide whether to stay on the dock or get in the boat, or we're soon going to be in the water. And too many of those in my generation have found themselves in the water and looking for a life preserver. You see, I'm one of the lucky ones who realized early on what technology could do, and I did my best and have done my best for a very long time to spend time learning the things that later save vast amounts of time in execution. The long history of human evolution shows that when faced with circumstances, we humans come up with procedures to handle those circumstances. That's allowed this species to thrive. But so often, especially with technology, our circumstances change, but our procedures stay the same. We wind up working harder, doing double duty, and complaining about life being so hard. I would say this to those of my generation and beyond. Let me ask you a question. When you were young, you did the best you could with what you had, right? You used carbon paper when you needed to make a copy of something so that you didn't have to type the same page twice, for example. You also made sure that you had a dime in your pocket so that you could make a phone call and you were never stranded with no way to communicate with the home folks. You learned how to use a slide rule because that was the tool that made complex calculations easy. Well, what happened to you? When did you stop doing that? When did you stop doing the best you could with what you had when what you have now is so much more? Many are at that age when traveling to see grandchildren or even great grandchildren is difficult. But nowadays, with a few clicks of a mouse, we can have those conversations with family no matter where they are, anytime we wish. And Lucas, for your generation, who knows what will be possible when you reach this point in your life? When I was a young man, President Reagan occupied the Oval Office. At the presentation ceremony for the National Medals of Science and Technology in 1988, he told a story of a time 20 years before then when he was governor of California and the student body presidents of 9 state universities of California demanded a meeting with him. The spokesman for the group began, Governor, it's impossible for you to understand your own children. Your generation didn't live in a time of instant electronics, of communication, of space travel, of journeys to the moon and jets. Reagan listened attentively and responded, You're absolutely right. We didn't have those things when we were growing up. We invented them. Those of my generation who have let 3 decades of technology innovation pass them by should realize the guy that made all this possible is someone our age who, as a young man, had a vision that changed the world when he wrote the operating system that has powered most of the world's computers ever since. They don't need to waste another day. And Lucas, they're lucky to have someone like you to help them step into the boat and live a life that is so much easier. So, folks, that was my answer to Lucas. And yes, the tools have gotten so much easier over the years. Anybody here today old enough to remember the DOS commands we used to use? Well, the Macintosh computer and the advent of Windows on the PC from Microsoft changed all that. Complex commands were replaced by what looked like little pieces of paper that you could click on and drag over to what looked like little miniature file folders. But you can't experience that if you're standing on the dock and watching the boat set sail. Come along for the journey. And if you're in my generation, if your hair looks like this, you've got a wealth of background knowledge to build on, and you have mastered skills much tougher than modern technology, believe me. So go and find yourself a Lucas and start learning. And if you're younger and you don't even remember the day when there wasn't something called a Google search, well, then go and find somebody whose hair is this color and introduce them to an easier way to work and play. Because after all, if it weren't for guys of my generation like Steve Jobs and Bill Gates, you wouldn't have a computer. And while you're helping them out, you can even ask them, what's this carbon paper of which he speaks? Thanks so much for stopping by today. This has been Frank Buck, helping you get organized and make it look easy.